if you'd like to start on your mat, we'll start in Shavasana. So just finding heaviness in the body, nice relaxed position. You can start by just rocking your head side to side, chin nodded into the chest, arms a nice way from the body, especially as it's warm, just finding as much contact with the air as possible. There's a gentle curl in the fingers. You can wiggle the toes just to get the awareness right to the tips and the tips of the fingers, and then let everything soften down. Just to take a moment to scan the body for any niggles in the body. And then so that we can really take some alignment from the floor. If we open the hands, palms stretched, pressing the backs of the hands into the floor, the backs of the forearms, upper arms, shoulders, the heels of the feet, squeeze the glutes and press into the floor, so maybe even the hips lift. Chin still tucked into the chest. We're just holding that tension in the body just for a couple of seconds. Squeeze the shoulder blades together as if there were a pencil there. Fingers stretched wide. Spread the toes, squeeze the glutes, and then relax down. To feel that sense of softening, settling as we release tension from the body. Checking in with the usual culprits of the jaw, the facial muscles, and even the deeper throat muscles. Sometimes we need to allow some saliva to gather so we can swallow or relax the throat. You're starting to feel that comfort of a still body, reducing the chatter in the mind. We'll keep the eyes closed while we switch our focus to the breath. So one hand on the belly, one on the ribs. Let's first breathe into the belly. So push down, the belly balloons out, maximum pressure. Hold, hold, hold. Really press into the hands, squeeze. And then breathe out, deflate, soften, and let go. Two-part breath. Belly into the ribs. So channel the air down, diaphragm presses down, belly balloons out, and then shift the focus up into the ribs. 3D expansion, so keep pressing into the mat, but then the ribs open sideways like theatre curtains and flare open, opening to the ceiling. Hold, and then deflate, soften, head to toe relaxation. All the way up into the chest. Breathe into the belly. Pause to feel the tension. Breathe into the ribs. The movement moves up the body. Breathe in, sip in some more air, and then all the way up into the chest. Maybe the chin tucks even closer into the chest. Hold the breath and then breathe right up into the crown of the head. And then release all the way down. Half Apanasana, but we're going to make it into a little bit of a flow with an oppositional stretch. So you might want to glance up for the first. So if I draw and mirror you at an angle, so right knee comes into the chest, holding with the right hand, as the left arm, left leg stretch. So the right knee's up to the ceiling and into the chest. And we're getting almost a banana-ing side stretch down the left side of the body. We can point the toes, reach the fingers overhead, join that arm up for a stretch on the left side of the body, and then we release and we switch sides. So opening the arms wide each time, then it's the left knee into the chest, chin still tucked to half Apanasana, but we're active through that straight leg, and we add on that stretch into the side of the body. So now you know what you're doing. Do reclose the eyes and pause in that big stretch on one side, contraction in the other before switching sides. So we'll maybe go for 3-4 rounds, and do feel that you're almost making angel wings on the floor. So there's that support into the shoulders. And we're really feeling a stretch on one side, pressing the heel of the straight leg into the floor, that arm overhead into the floor, as we did in that opening of the class. A couple of times either side. We don't need to go to the edge, but just pausing long enough in each extreme. And as we're taking the body side to side, see if you can still keep the knee into the chest, because after this we will get a hip opening, but here it's the classic half Apanasana, half wind relieving posture. But we're also opening across the chest with both shoulders into the floor, and we're keeping both hips on the floor. Maybe the last round like this, just make sure your neck is comfortable. It's very easy to start clenching the jaw. The head can just roll. You're rolling on the back of the head. When you've evened yourself out, we're going to change the emphasis so the knee comes towards the armpit. So hip opening without lifting the opposite hip. So consciously press your opposite hip, the one of the straightened leg, down into the floor. Feel that yummy stretch across the hip and inner thigh stretch on the bent knee. Keeping a nice steady breath in and out of the nose. Stretch on one side, contraction on the other. Next variation, we'll take the knee out to the side into a lying twist. So this time, mirroring you, I'm opening the right knee to the side, and then switching hands, the knee across the body into a lying twist. Sticking with the same side, just 2 or 3 rounds on this side, and then we'll switch legs. So as you take the knee across the body, see if you can gently guide the knee down and slightly away from you so that you're working into the hip and the front of the thigh. Onto the other side. So even as we're opening the hip out to the side, you're consciously keeping your opposite hip down into the floor. We're nearly done, where we'll be taking a happy baby into a balancing bear. And that's always a little bit hit and miss whether we can come up to sitting, but we give it a whirl anyway. So happy baby, now we have both knees into the chest, elbows on the insides of the knees, clasp the feet around the little toe side. And let's just take a moment to sway side to side where the elbows are helping to guide the knees open. Notice if your feet are coming together, it's fine, but see if you can open the ankles as wide as the knees. Long back of the neck, so see if you can avoid sticking the chin up to the ceiling. It's nice insofar as it opens the airways, but we want to train nice bit of length into the back of the neck. Let's add on a hamstring stretch. Your peace fingers or yogi fingers around the big toe if you're not wearing socks, otherwise you'll have to stay the same grasp of your feet. And let's stretch through the hamstring while we're stretching one leg. The hip bone, the thigh bone is pressing into the floor. So rather than peeling the hips up, try and keep the hips on the floor. Don't worry if the leg doesn't fully straighten. So balancing bear, both legs are straight-ish, bend is fine, and we can start to rock on the spine. We're gradually working our way up into a seated position. Maybe we can come up into that balance. Last couple of rocks. It's all good for massaging the spine, and see if you can briefly come up into this position. Opening the legs out a little bit wider, and then we're taking a butterfly. Soles of the feet together. And just rocking gently from one sit bone to the other, and let's clasp the feet. Take a deep breath in, lengthening through the spine, chest forward, shoulders back. You can adjust how close the feet are to the groin. It's more important to make sure there's no pull on the knees. So just finding where's a nice hip opening. Sometimes I feel a restriction at the top, and it's quite nice to get the elbows in there and almost prise the legs open a little bit. Lovely. So our last 2 breaths on in this position, we can come into a fold, or for less intensity, hands behind and puff out the chest. and lightly butterfly the knees out. Super. All right, but mermaid twist, right leg adjust into this. Now I always think about a closed twist, so navel to spine, closing in and walking the hands around to the left. Because what we want to avoid is this back bending here. So start by, you can even press your belly in, look down at your hip, and then come into a twist, so that we're zipping everything in, that powerhouse or feel a root lock even, your pelvic floor, the hip points drawn together, so we're protecting the lower spine, and we're getting that twist right up into the cervical spine. We'll pause here, soften the jaw, remember more of a closed twist, we're still getting length in the spine, and then gently over to the other side, we switch legs. Flip the legs, and remember, rather than this up back bend, see if we can press the belly in, so ribs come together, navel to spine, a closed twist. We may even get a little bit of a hip flexor stretch on this front left thigh. You're walking your hands around to the right, navel to spine, so no arch in the lower back, breathing deeply. Beautiful. We're ready to come onto all fours. We'll just get one round of cat-cow. The spine will already be a little bit warmer. So knees under the hips, shoulders over the wrists. Toes pointed behind. Now try and use that movement in the pelvis that we've been talking about for the last couple of sessions, where the pelvis is a bowl of water, tipping water forwards. Also then moving into the upper spine, shoulders back, chest forwards. So very much more actively stretching the front of the body. Now that pelvis of water, tipping water out the back. You should really feel a strong pull in the core, navel to spine, suck everything in, zip it up. Great. We're coming to a knee lunge, so let's step the right leg forward. And here, you may want to adjust your other leg back a little bit to get a little bit of a hip flexor stretch, and we're focusing on these front toes. See if you can peel the heel up, and then lowering down, lift the toes. Any clunkiness, or if you've had any injuries in the ankle, hold the ankle and just support it, lifting, and then through the toes. Once more here. And then we're going to take half Hanumanasana, half monkey or half splits. So for this, we'll straighten the front leg, toes up, and it's at this point you may feel you can guide the leg, the heel of the foot forwards a little bit, but let's get an emphasis on pulling the thigh bone back into the hip, so that's squaring up, almost as though you're pulling the inner thighs towards each other. And we pause here. If it's too intense, draw your heel in, hands on the hips, so this is a challenge for the balance. We'll pause here, breathing into the back of the leg, and keep thinking about pulling the thigh bone into the socket. Breathing deeply, one more breath here. And then the foot comes back to the floor, pace it out towards the side of the mat. Weight into the left hand, and with that right hand, hold the knee and draw a big circle. Now look at this right foot, the front foot I'm mirroring you, and work around the outline of the foot. So we're not straining the ankle. Nice big circle, and in the other direction. And then before we do that whole sequence to the other side, I just want to take a reminder of the gait, because in the sun salutations, I want you to have that as an option instead of a side plank. So this leg that's been active, let's take the leg out to the side. Toes are pointing forward, slight tuck in the tailbone, and then this hand onto the floor, and we take this modified side plank. So this is where we'll come to if we don't want to take the full side plank later on. All right, everything over to the other side. So this time, left foot forwards. We're coming into a lunge, so we're starting to warm up the back hip, but we can just focus initially on that mobilization through the toes, ankles, peeling the toes up. Almost like walking through the foot, lift in the heel. Remember to support the ankle through the movement. Half Hanumanasana. So we're straighten the front leg. Same thing, femur, pull it back into the socket. So we kind of scissor the thighs together. And breathe deeply, increasing the stretch if you feel you've got a scope, but no forcing, no forcing at all. We can come upright. If you've got blocks, it's quite handy to bring the floor up to meet you to help with the balance. Just taking a moment to breathe into the back of the leg. Defining length without going to the edge takes a lot of mindfulness. So try to really keep your focus on the back of the leg. And then we're taking those hip circles. So foot back to the floor, pace it out to the outer edge, and start to trace the outline of the foot. So we're working on the joints of the toes, the ankle, knee, and the hip. Once more in this direction, and then we'll change direction. So the other way, and the hip prepared. And then just so that we can keep moving in the sun salutations, let's just take that side gate, modified side plank. So a nice big stretch overhead, and this will be your alternative. Lower foot can come from front or behind, or the feet stacked when we come to the side plank. So you've got your options there. Let's roll up through the spine. So we come from a down dog, pedaling it through one foot to the other until we come to a forward fold. And let's just pause in that ragdoll fold so we can ease out the wrists, shake out the head, maybe have a little sway around the feet. And then soften the knees so we can rebuild the spine from the base up, come all the way up, rolling the shoulders back and down. And it's that time, sun salutations. So let me just rise up here a little bit. As usual, I'll probably lose my head at some point, but I don't think that matters. All right, 3 rounds of sun salutation. I'll switch the side so that my active leg will be in the front, but you're all experienced yogis. We'll do everything on the right first and then on the left, so don't worry. Let's come to the front of your space and let's just find Artadasana. So yogi's choice, if you want the big toes together, that's fine. Otherwise, I prefer hip distance apart so I can really feel grounded. Firm up the legs, lengthen through the tailbone. Let's close those front ribs, shoulders back, chin tucked, and just take a moment to root down into the floor and rise up through the crown of the head. Take a deep breath in, reach the arms overhead, and as you breathe out, press the air down. Try to feel that upper shoulder blades come together, mid-shoulder blades, so we're getting that work into the back of the body, and then hold the ankles of the calves, bow the head. Take a moment to soften the knees and let the sit bones ride up the wall behind you. Halfway lift, try to still keep the sense of a concave in the lower back, lengthening through the spine. The right leg is stepping back. We're just going for one classic round of the Series A sun salutations initially. Pausing in that run a lunge, yummy stretch for the front hip. If you can, keep the back knee lifted, back leg straight for more work into the front of the leg. Try and lengthen through the spine, right into the crown of the head. Now can we scissor the thighs together again? So you're almost drawing together. So you're pressing down through the feet, then almost dragging towards each other. Ready for a plank. Navel to spine and adjust back to your plank. Here we can take the knees down to the floor. Otherwise, if chaturanga is your practice, come forwards onto the toes so we get the right position of the shoulders, elbows, wrists. And we'll lower down to the belly. Release your toes, press the hands down and forwards so that the shoulders go back, the chest comes forwards, pubic bone pressing into the floor. Long, long neck, big gap between the ears and the shoulders. Down dog, either rolling on the toes or tucking the toes, and we're meeting down dog. Take a moment to lengthen through the spine. If you're rounding the back, better to bend the knees and really lengthen through the spine. And then we can start to lengthen through the legs. Maybe the heels get closer to the floor. Big, big bend in both knees. Look at the hands, and we're stepping your right foot to the front. Help it into place. If it doesn't get there first time, we want that muscle memory of where we want it to end up. So this back here, lift it up and place it into position. We're coming to our forward fold. Left foot forwards, chest is on the thighs. Now straighten the legs. So we start to look at our belly. Open the arms wide. Start to get that connection between the shoulder blades. So we're rolling the shoulders back, lifting the arms, take a big stretch. Breathe in till the palms meet and breathe out heart center. Brilliant, left side. Classic round, no bells on. Breathe in, stretch, open the chest wide. Optional back bend if you've got no niggles. Press the air down, come to your fold. Just brush the hands down the backs of the legs, just checking in with the hamstrings, calf muscles, and pause. By slightly softening the knees, we can get that pelvic tilt, so there's more water flowing forwards out of that pelvic bowl and sit bones riding up the wall behind. So we're giving a little bit of extra tension along the upper legs, backs of the legs. Keep that sense of a pelvic tilt and a little bit of a curve in the spine as we take a halfway lift. Very easy to come into a rounded position here, keeping that length in the spine. Left foot is stepping back to that runner lunge. Glide it back and make sure it's far enough back away from you so that your front knee isn't coming too far over your ankle. So better to keep the knee over the ankle and slide that left leg further back. Pause if you can with straightening that back leg. And now feel length from the back heel to the crown of the head, that pulling action, that tug of war to lengthen. Now the opposition is in the feet. The feet are pressing down and together. So whilst we're getting length out through the crown of the head, now let's find some connection between the inner thighs. Really active through the legs. And take a plank. So we're in a high plank with the hands under the shoulders or slightly wider than the shoulders. Your choice, knees down first, but we want the elbows coming into the waist as we lower to the belly. Here, your choice is baby cobra, elbows into the waist, long neck, or coming up into an up dog position. Your choice, but make sure your spine's ready for the deeper extension. Pause to feel the space in the front of the body, and then either rolling on the toes or tuck the toes and send the hips high and back. Pause in a down dog. Now, if we've taken that little bit of a back bend, you may start to feel some warmth, sensitivity in the lower back. This is fine as long as there's no pain. We're just breathing in some length into the back of the body. A little bit of a sway of the hips side to side will give you a stretch right up into the armpits. Let's remember that if you're feeling it's difficult to get the chest towards the thighs, bend the knees a little bit and get that extra length in the spine. We're now going to crouch low, look at the hands. It will help or step the left foot back to the front. Pause. We squeeze the thighs together, really lengthen the spine, the neck, and come to your forward fold. Now, feel the outline of both feet. So let's get active through even the muscles in the arches of the feet. You'll feel them there if you press your fingers into the arches, rolling up through the spine. And now let's again go back to the shoulder blades. They come together. We reach overhead, taking a deep breath in, hands meet, and then we lower. Okay, take a break, take some water, otherwise the next round is the side planks with a thread through. Take a breath in, Reach overhead. Maybe if you're taking a back bend, let the hips come forward. Squeeze the glutes and keep that engagement in the abdominals and reach overhead. Coming into your forward fold. Halfway lift. So think about tipping water forwards out of the pelvis and feel that long line into the crown of the head. We're stepping your right foot back into your runner lunge. We'll pause. Just let the hips settle down and into a plank. So it's in this position we can either lower the left knee and we take our plank facing the right wall here in a modified kind of gate side plank, or you're taking the full side plank. So just find your position. So left hand's on the floor, right arm up to the ceiling. Feel the squeeze between the shoulder blades. Tilt the pelvis under. So now you want to think about water tipping out the back of the pelvis. Breathing deeply. The top foot can come in front or behind to give you a wider base. Now, 3 rounds of threading through. Open the chest wide, wide spin wingspan, and then the breath out. Take a big twist, reaching through. Feel that into your waist, and then breathing in to reach up. Chest open wide, breathing out. Spinal twist. Empty the lungs, navel to spine. Last time. Deep breath in, carve through the air, long line, reaching into the fingertips. Brilliant. Hands come to the floor. We're back into our planks, down to the belly. Now, if that was a bit much, you come forward into a sphinx and take a moment to ease out the head. Otherwise, you're in your cobra or up dog. Breathe. Down dog, tuck the toes, send the hips high. Remember, knees bent initially, so you can feel where your longest spine is. And then without affecting the length of the spine, start to lower the heels and straighten the knees. So if we always work in that order, we'll always create a stronger, healthier line in the spine and gradually get more movement, length into the backs of the legs. And stretch into the calf. Crouching low, right foot stepping to the front, room the helper into place if needs be. Take a moment just to scissor the thighs together slightly, engage your core and step to the front. Breathe in, opening the arms wide. Mini back bend, squeezing the glutes, thinking length rather than back bend. And to heart center, left side. Breathe in and reach. Breathe out and fold. Take a halfway lift. Left foot stepping far back. Lengthen through to the crown of the head, right through to the heel of the back foot. Scissors the thighs together and take a plank. So this time it will be the right hand staying on the floor, so the right knee can come down and we can take this modified side plank. So choose, we're either in this position, I'm still mirroring you, so right hand to the floor, left hand to the ceiling. Option to place your other foot in front or behind, but we want to think about where's the back of the head, back of the pelvis. Very easy to start rounding. So think about stretching yourself out into a long line, 3 thread throughs. Deep breath in, maybe opening a little bit further back before taking that twist, threading through. Reach, keep active right to the fingertips and use your core. Deep breath in, open the chest. Breath out, carving through the air. Last time. Deepest breath in, feel that expansion in the ribs and thread through before returning to a plank. Knees can come down into the belly, otherwise into your chaturanga, to a spine extension of your choice. So it was Sphinx, Baby Cobra, Cobra, or Up Dog. Pause for recovery breath, and then we take a down dog. We can pedal it through. Take a recovery breath. And then we're stepping the left foot to the front. So crouch low, look at the hands so that we know where we're aiming for. Left foot forward. Pause. Any little swiveling here is all great. And then step to the front. Circle out the wrists as we rebuild the spine. Take a deep breath in, stretching overhead. And breathe out on the third round. Series 2 with warriors on the return. So big toes are together, turning the inner thighs to the front or hip distance apart. Let's go. So we bend the knees, but we can still see the toes and come to your Utkatasana. So weight right into the heels. I can almost lift the toes. Now, pausing here, let's work on that pelvic tilt. The pelvis is a bowl of water. Tip the water forward, and then try and tip the water back until you've got that strong engagement in the core. Again, once more, almost taking a lower back cat-cow, and then finding some compromise somewhere between the two, where we have a light engagement in the core, but we've got this length in the lower back. Pause, see if we can sink the hips a little bit lower without changing the curves in the spine. See where we get to, and then the hands can find the floor, and we'll step the right foot back. Well done. Step back to a plank. It's on the return, we'll add on the warriors. Pausing just to feel the length of your plank. If the knees are down, think about the knees right up to the crown of the head, neck really long. Now coming down to the belly your way, and curling up. And we're meeting a down dog. So pause. Let's think ahead before we make the shape. We visualize your right foot stepping forwards. Your left heel will come in a little bit to the center line. So think about where the toes are initially pointing forwards. If we swivel the left heel in a little bit, then think about maybe 30 degrees pointing out. So with that in mind, bend the knees, your right foot stepping forwards. And so for warrior one, we find a little bit of a hip opening with the toes slightly turned out of the back, and join me in a warrior one. So if I line up here, there's a little bit of a gap between the ankles, so the hips can be square to the front, back toes slightly turned out to protect the knee. Warrior one arms. Front knee over the ankle. Warrior one and peaceful warrior one. Peaceful warrior. I'll take this at an angle so you can see. So we're square to the front for our warrior one. Then the left arm will spiral back to the back leg. Your lifted arm, bend at the elbow, and take a lean back to your peaceful warrior. So we can flow between these two. Your back arm comes forward, and we come back to warrior one. We're very square to the front, and then the back stroke opening slightly to the side, but your front knee still tracking forward. Elbows pointing up to the ceiling, back fingers long. And again, everything squares up to the front, into warrior one. And then that slight opening, more in the ribs and the shoulders, lower body staying where it is. Elbow to the ceiling, chest open wide. Last time, lengthen here. Try and avoid any excessive back bends here, any sensitivity in the lower back. Think more maybe about lunging forwards. And last time into peaceful warrior. And from this peaceful warrior, we're going to cartwheel the hands to the front to complete this sun salutation. So hands come forwards to frame your front foot. We lift the back heel and step forwards. Utkatasana. Keep sight of your toes. Sweep parallel arms forwards and up. Find the pelvic tilt, the exaggerated pelvic tilt, and pause somewhere as a compromise between the two. Lengthening through the tailbone, strong through the abdominals. Toes can lift off the floor, I can wiggle them. And then standing up tall, hands meet, squeeze the glutes. We're ready for the last side. Take a breath in, Open the arms wide, optional back bend. More important to lengthen up through the fingers. Coming down into a chair, let's sink back into the heels. Feel the bend in the knees, lengthen the spine. And then take that cat-cow, the tuck, and then water spills forwards. A few more times. That awareness into the core muscles and feel that midway point, long spine, engaged abdominals. Sinking a little bit lower. And you're about to sit in a low chair. Knees still parallel. Find the floor and step the left foot back. Well done. Just enjoy this run a lunge, a recovery breath here, and then step to a plank. Knees can come down. Good time to take a child pose if you need a little bit of a breather, and then we can meet in the warrior one. Pausing to feel the shape. So with a plank, we more want to think about a slight rounding of the back. So the shoulder blades come apart and we draw the front ribs together. Navel lifting. Chaturanga to up dog. And when you're ready, we'll slowly, or for anyone who's taking a child pose, we'll meet in a down dog. So from our down dog position, let's just feel it stretching every direction. The heels are reaching towards the floor. Sit bones riding up the wall behind. Knees are slightly soft though, no locking the knees. Now back to the hands. See if you can press the fingertips into the floor, and it's as if you're turning jars in opposite directions away from each other, opening across the shoulders. So your right hand is spiraling or making the moves to turn clockwise, your left hand anti-clockwise. So get that activation through the fingertips, the underside knuckles, the heels of the hands, and even an opening in the shoulders. Looking back at the toes, can we now look at the right heel? That's going to spin in slightly for our warrior one. So with that in mind, bend the knees, let's step your left foot forwards and find that position in the back foot so we can come up into warrior one. There's a slight gap between the legs and the front knees bent, back leg straight. Pause. So let's just have a reminder. Your right arm can backstroke down the back leg. Your front arm, take a bend and lean. Maybe even the knee comes further forwards. Elbow to ceiling, so we're active rather than just leaning back. You lean back, the elbows up to the ceiling, knee pointing forwards. Back to the warrior one, squaring everything to the front and into the peaceful warrior. The legs are pretty much staying where they are, but the muscles that we're using in the thigh, obviously changing to accommodate that shift in weight in the upper body. So we're working the muscles in a different way to keep the hips pointing forwards, even as we open the chest towards the right. One more round, and let's be really active. It's that elbow into the fingertips, slight tailbone tuck. So last time here, and then we'll cartwheel the hands forwards. In a thigh stretch of the front, active through the legs, and then let's cartwheel the hands down to frame your front foot. Lift the back heel and come to step forwards. Your last Utkatasana, your last chair. Sweep the arms by your sides, forwards. Can you still see your toes? Now, shoulders not too far forwards, not too far back. Just feel some connection between the shoulder blades and ribs closing. Navel to spine. For the last time, let's just find a few pelvic tilts. With an emphasis on that pelvic tilt where the core's engaged. And we're pressing down through the feet. Remember when we press into the arch of the feet, just by clawing into the toes, all of those feet muscles are active, pressing into the floor to rise up. Deep breath in, hands meet, and return to heart center. Close the eyes, let the arms rest by the body, and let the breathing settle. Give yourself one more breath here. We've done lots of standing work there, so we are going to come down to the floor. A little bit of work with the hips. but starting with a little bit of a strengthener for the outer hips, which don't get worked as much as the fronts and back. So this is a good balancing bit of strength work. Right. So we're going to do this with the feet bent, knees bent, feet flat on the floor. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to place the feet together, and if possible, no hands, we lean to the left and we extend the right leg, toes forwards, a little bit of lift of the leg. Then we return. Hard. Other side. So we lean to the right, extend the leg. Leg will never have felt this heavy. Lift and return. Now we can make this slightly easier. We can lean onto the fingertips, extend and lift, but the knee and the toe pointing forward. So we're strengthening those harder to reach outer thigh muscles. Harder, thumbs into the chest bone. And we use the obliques, outer leg muscles to squeeze and lift. We're preparing to take a pigeon side to side, which I know we've done before, but not for some time. So I'm dialing the hip down slightly so everything's pointing forwards. Try to feel your obliques, giving that lift in the leg. We'll have maybe one more set each side. The nice thing about taking a prayer at the heart center, it can kind of give you that reminder to lengthen open across the chest. Now, while you finish your last set, let me explain then how we can translate this into the leg sweeping all the way around behind you into a pigeon and then coming back the other side. So we can start to work towards a flow. And the nice thing about flowing one pigeon to the other is we're not ever going to go too deeply into it, because we're just kind of flirting with the idea of a restorative pigeon into a back bend before we come out of it and to the other. So just to keep the body moving, find your version of sweeping the legs one at a time into that pigeon, but keeping a nice, or aiming for a nice steady flow. We'll gradually reduce the reliance of the hands as stabilizers, because sometimes it's just the brain needs time to catch up and figure out which muscles are engaging. So you start to feel you can almost organically move with this. Your body will automatically provide a kind of counter to help you get the movement into the leg. Great strengthening mobility for the hip, and we're getting that release for the hip flexors, working with these external rotators of the front thigh. The next time we come to the right knee in front, left leg extended, we are going to fold. And you get 3 yummy breaths, either in your restorative fold or coming into more of a back bend chest opener. Anyone wanting an advanced version, we can bend the back leg and maybe even hook the elbow around. So 3 breaths, enjoy whichever level. You can take a Ganesh hold here with the fingers linking. Breathing deeply. Try and keep active though through the body, rather than just sinking and just gritting your teeth and bearing it, waiting for it to finish. See if you can find some stillness, but some light engagement through the body. Head will be last to come up. Let's slowly roll up through the spine and we'll switch sides. So this is your rest, believe it or not. So find your position. Let's not worry about getting the shin too far forwards. That can actually be a really unhelpful pull on the patella tendon. You're getting plenty of a turnout in this hip, even with the foot close to the groin. So the options, maybe lowering yourself down, fists for the head. Otherwise, just working on maybe rocking, but do maybe think about closing your eyes so you can settle into whichever version you're going for. And obviously your other option is bending the back leg so we get more of a stretch into the front of the thigh. See if you can take hold with the fingers. The strap's quite a good way of working into this. Wherever you are, we're moving towards the end of the session, so we can start to feel some softening through the body, but still mindfully engaging the muscles so that we're never overdoing anywhere. Particularly in this upright position, it'd be very easy to overstrain the lower back. And we're not about that. Nurturing the body, just breathing in. We know the right sort of pain, muscular effort. When you're ready, I want you to very, very, very gently release out. We'll just take the legs out in front of you, have a little rock from one sit bone to the other, and just watch the knees and the feet toes wiggling, flowing side to side. Navasana. Boat. We have options as always. So we can work on lengthening through the spine. See the chin's tucked into the chest. Chest forward, shoulders slightly back, front ribs together, navel to spine. Now we can tip back off the sit bones, and you have the option of having the toes on the floor. If you get cramped, just lift the toes and spread them. If you wish, you can take the shins parallel to the floor. Let's keep that long line in the spine, chin slightly back, lengthen the back of the neck, shoulders back, and we'll lengthen the arms forward. Now, zip in. Tight jeans here, front ribs, and we'll breathe. Now keep that connection between the ribs, navel to spine, and see if we can lift the arms slightly higher. So shoulders are back, but fingers are reaching forwards. So active arms, we're toning, arms are now higher than the heart. Very easy to let the shoulder blades slide apart, so keep some connection there. A little bit of shaking is fine. See if we can lift the hands slightly higher. Again, shoulders plugged back, fingers reaching forwards. Have a sense of it may feel already like there's a weight on your shins, but kind of feel some resistance that you're lifting the shins if you're in the lifted position. You're nearly there, the arms can't go much further. Shaking fine, but no pain, no sharp or jagged pain come out of it. We're seeing a full body stretch here. Arms a little bit higher, shoulders back, stretch the fingers. Feel you're lifting the shins up into some weight there. Navel to spine, ribs together, long spine, long neck. Last of all, your highest you can manage, shoulders back. It's that make a fist and circle the wrists, both directions. If you can, straighten the legs. You've done so well. Roll back through the spine. One vertebra at a time, then take a full body stretch. Well done. By clasping the opposite wrist, we can take a mini banana stretch here to stretch out the sides of the body. And then we're going to take a phased lowering from bridge. So when you're ready, bend the knees. Feet closest to the bottom, shoulder blades flat to the floor, chin tucked. So let's first of all feel that pelvic tilt, water pouring out the back. Feel the hip points being pulled together, so some engagement in the lower abs, ribs together, and we peel the lower spine off the mat. Now, ideally, I want your feet and your knees hip distance apart, and they stay that distance apart. So we're moving so slowly, we can keep our awareness into all of those points so the knees stay perfectly in place. We're slowly feeling the outline of both feet pressing into the floor. So we lift the hips high and higher. Now, depending on where you are, you might be able to clasp the hands behind the back and keep those hands as one fist reaching for the backs of the heels. Can we feel the big toes pressing into the floor and the little toes pressing into the floor? Can we feel as though we're tipping water out the back of that pelvic bowl? Now that's the sense that we're going to keep the whole time we do this phased lowering. So let's separate the hands, tilting the pelvis so water's pouring out the back, and lower maybe 1 or 2 vertebrae down, then pause. Re-lengthen through the tailbone, water pouring out the back, so almost getting a bit of a hip extension at the fronts of the hips here. Knees are still in line. Get that pelvic tilt and maybe 2 more vertebrae down. I know this is strong on the backs of the legs and your quads. So great control. Again, retilt the pelvis. The navel, think about your mula bandha, that energy of navel to spine and tucking under the ribs. Maybe 2 more vertebrae. Go down to the floor and then retuck. So strong, I know, we're nearly there. And retuck, lowering down. You're nearly on the floor, there's still a gap here. The next one will be the last, so get that big tilt in the pelvis, that strong contraction in the core, front ribs together, and lay the spine all the way down. Amazing. Feet as wide as the mat, and let the knees sway side to side. So I want you to feel that massage across the bottom cheeks, the lower spine. Nice, easy movement. And then the next time the knees fall to the left, just pause there and find a stretch along the right side, the quads and into the hip. We can stretch the arms out wide and start to rock on the back of the head, gently side to side. And then back to the idea of pressing the backs of the arms, backs of the hands into the floor, just feeling a bit of pressure there, and then relaxing. And then knees up and over to the other side. Let them drop to the right. And by lengthening through this left leg into the knee, we're stretching the front of the thigh, into the hip. And then with the arms in a wide T, we've got that lovely alignment, both shoulders into the floor. Again, the head just rocking, or find a comfortable position for the head. And just pause to feel, gather a bit of tension in the back of the body by pressing the backs of the shoulders, upper arms, forearms, backs of the hands into the floor, and then soften. One more recovery breath here. And then we have our figure 4, which will take as a tipping action side to side to gradually ease out the ITB. So whichever foot, doesn't matter which, let's place the foot on the opposite thigh and just help to open the inner thigh of this top leg up to the ceiling. So rounding out inner thigh to the ceiling. So with this external rotation of the right thigh, foot flexed, we can start to slowly tip to the side. So try to feel where the corresponding hip lifts as you tip, and then it comes back to the floor as you reset. So you're actively trying to keep the hip on the floor as long as possible before it peels up as the foot comes towards the floor. A couple more times, just feeling that tipping action, but trying to keep both hips on the floor as long as possible. So we're really working deeply into the outer hip. Think about all those pigeon to pigeon movements we've taken. So being nice and careful, nurturing, patient with the muscles of the outer hip. Arms can be wherever they're comfortable, or you may want to support the legs, deepen the external rotation of the front hip, top hip, as you wish. And to the other side. Before we do that, just take both knees into the chest, just have a little reset. So if you've been doing the same as me, it's right foot to the floor, left foot on top, and let's turn the inner thigh up. So working with those external rotators of the top leg, and even just pressing the heel of your hand into the inner thigh, pressing down and out. Get a little bit more traction along those muscles. And then we're getting that tipping action. So with the foot flexed, we gently take it to the side. Now, this is another one like the pigeon. You don't want to work through anything that has any even slight pull on the knee. There's no point. I'd rather you relax the foot, maybe take the knee a little bit further across the body, so we're just working on the hip and we're taking out a bit of strain on the knee. is when it's any pinging on the knee, you know that you're into the less elastic connective tissue, which doesn't like to be strained. So just keep it, contain it within a movement that you feel the right sort of challenge. Again, keeping the hip on the floor as long as possible as you tip, because it's just at that point where there's the obstruction, where you can't go any further, that we're starting to work a little bit more deeply. And hopefully targeting the IT band. And then gently release. Again, we'll take the knees into the chest. This is just so that the brain can reset what's a nice alignment coming back, and just allow the heels to massage the lower glutes, upper thigh muscles. Hamstring stretch. Let's start with the right leg up to the ceiling, support at the back of the leg, and let's point the toes and then curl the toes up to the face. Now, you remember those Barbie doll toes? Keep the toes up to your face, but press the arch of the foot up to the ceiling. So toes are curled up, but the arch is pressing up, like you're putting on those ridiculous shoes. Again, point the toes. Flex the foot, and then Barbie doll toes, reach up. Just try and keep both sit bones on the floor. It's very tempting to roll up so that we get the leg higher. You can even test, you're keeping both hips on the floor by floating your left foot off the floor. And then just taking a nice gentle circle of the right hip, holding the knee, and then we'll take the stretch to the other side. Right foot to the floor, left leg extends. Support at the back of the leg, point the toes, and then curl the toes up to the face. Okay, ready. So thinking about the ball of the foot, keep the toes pointing towards you and extend through the ball of the foot. See if you can really spread the toes. Hips down on the floor, stretch. Two-way stretch, thigh bone into the floor, arch of the foot up to the ceiling. Again, point, flex, and then leading with the ball of the foot. So we use this for myofascial release, or in yin yoga with the fire toes, that idea of really flexing the toes and getting deeper into those connective tissues. Hug the knees into the chest. We're ready to come back to Shavasana. So we can extend the legs, arms open wide. A little bit of a rock from one sit bone to the other. So again, we're shaking out hips, knees, ankles, toes, and then just let the legs flop. With the arms, reach them out to the side walls, tuck the chin into the chest, spread the skin on the palms, and then create fists. Circle the fists, both directions, stretch to the side wall, and then let the arms flop. We're closing the eyes. And now the sense of lying on big crash mats where each time we breathe out, we're just sinking a little bit deeper. The idea of a snow globe. Letting everything settle down. No changing the breath now, just following the journey of the breath in through the nose and out through the nose. Finding heaviness in the heels of the feet. So those tiny muscles of the toes, the tops of the feet, the arch of the foot. Think how many muscles in the body we've worked with repetitive movements, then with stretches. Now the winning formula is now to allow the muscles to relax. That third crucial step. To work on supple muscles. With the eyes closed, see if there's anywhere in the body that could be a tiny bit more comfortable. So maybe the arms are too high, maybe the shoulder blades could shuffle in a little bit closer. Just breathing naturally in and out of the nose. Just tuning in with the mind. If we are natural planners, very tempting to start to walk forwards in time to the next activity. We're slight worriers. We might be going back in time and ruminating over things. Let's try and just keep it in the now. And sometimes it's difficult for us to tell you to ourselves, actually, we're worth nourishing right now. How much time we spend nurturing other people, other things. Just hold on to this last couple of moments so that your muscles can benefit maximally from the hard work of the past hour. Even now, you may be holding on to tension. Can we soften down the spine, the glutes? The big, powerful muscles, sometimes they're engaged for so much of the day. It takes a little bit of mindfulness, a little bit of reassurance, reminders the body's fully supported, can soften and relax. Now, keeping your eyes closed, you can stay in Shavasana as long as you wish. If you're now coming to the end of the hour and you know you have things to do, keep the eyes closed, but then slowly draw the legs together and the knees into the chest. And give yourself a little rock on the spine. You can start to blink vigorously, start to lubricate the eyes. But only if you're ready, we can roll onto the left-hand side. And you can stay in a fetal position or roll up to standing. And in case anyone's in a big rush, we're going to finish it there.